Good morning, students. Welcome back to Java programming class. In our previous class, we started the concept of exception handling. We defined what is an exception and how it is helpful in Java programming. We discussed different scenarios when if we don't handle the exception, how the program will respond, and if we handle the exception, how the program will respond. These type of scenarios we discussed. We said in order to do the exception handling in Java programming, we need different keywords to use. In that, the main ones are try, catch, finally, throw, throws. These type of keywords we need to discuss. So we already started the uh, different concepts like try, catch, block, try with finally block, try with multiple catch blocks. In that we already discussed try, catch. Okay. So in today's session, we'll go further and we'll see what different concepts we have in this exception handling to discuss. Okay. So quickly, yeah, these things we have already covered. The checked, unchecked, and error type of exceptions we discussed. The try, catch, finally, throw, throws keywords. We had the brief discussion on them. Then examples on exception handling we discussed. The different scenarios. I mean, to generate an arithmetic exception, to generate a null pointer exception, number format exception, and array index side out of bound exception, bounds exception. All these things we discussed with examples, and we said these 10 different topics we need to cover in exception handling. So we made the index over here, and we completed the first one, that is Java's try catch block. Okay, how try block monitors the exception, and when an exception arises, how it will throw out of the block, and how the catch block will catch it and handle it. Those things we covered in our previous session. So in today's session, we'll go with the second point, that is second topic, that is Java's multiple catch blocks. Yes, this one. So it is not a must case that your try block can have only one catch block. A try block can be followed by one or more catch blocks. We can put more number of catch blocks because your try block, it is monitoring for exceptions, and when you put the suspicious code within the try block, that suspicious code may generate more number of exceptions, more than one type of exceptions. So if that is the scenario, if that is the case, then we need to provide more number of catch blocks suitable to handle each type of exception which is thrown by the try block. So each catch block must contain a different type of exception handler. So in this case, each catch block will act like a different type of exception handler. So if you have to perform different tasks at the occurrence of different exceptions, use Java's multiple catch block. So suppose if one type of exception is arising, you want to perform a particular type of operation, and if another type of exception is occurring, then you want to perform another type of operations, then we have to go for Java's multi-catch blocks. So here we have few important points to remember, that even as you are providing multiple catch blocks for a single try block at a time, only one type of exception, because we discussed when an exception arises inside a try block, it will be, I mean, the control will be thrown out of the try block. The control will no longer execute any statement inside the try block. It will simply thrown out of the block. The control will be thrown out of the block with exception object. So when the control is coming out of the try class, there is no possibility that the remaining type of exceptions will occur inside the try block. So at any particular time, okay, even if you put more number of exception suspicious statements inside the try block, at any particular time only one exception can arise. Once the exception arises, the control will be out of the try block, so there is least possibility, or we can say no possibility of other exceptions to arouse. Okay, So at any particular time, only one exception can occur, and at any time, only one catch block is executed. And as the program is, as the control is coming out of the try block, after the occurrence of a particular type of exception, only that particular catch block will be executed, and remaining all will be skipped. So at any point of instance, at any point of time, there is a possibility of occurrence of only one type of exception, even if you have provided multiple exception situations, and there is a possibility of execution of only one catch block, even if you have provided multiple catch blocks with multiple specific exception classes. Remember this one. This is more important. And another important point is, when you are providing multiple catch blocks for a try block, the hierarchy must be followed from bottom to top. In your exception class hierarchy, whatever classes they are coming at the down, those things must be provided first. Those things must be given with catch block first. Then the top level classes, like parent class exception. Okay. So suppose if in an try block, arithmetic exception is there, as well as the exception type of exception is there. Two exceptions are arising inside a try block. Two exceptions are arising. One is arithmetic exception, and other one is exception type of exception, exception class exception. So in this case, which class exception we have to provide first, in the sense which class catch block we have to provide first, in the sense the exception, arithmetic exception class catch block we have to provide first, then the parent class exception, that is exception class catch block. Okay, when we do it practically, you will understand it clearly. So here one simple example I'm taking. So as you can see here, in my what we call program, we are writing a program code where two types of exceptions are there. One is the divide by zero, as you can see over here. One is divide by zero exception, and the other one is, let me just connect my touchpad. Okay, now it is, yeah. So one is the divide by zero exception, that is here. Okay, another one is array index out of bounds exception, because we have declared the array size of 5 elements and we are accessing the sixth element, that is index of 5. Index of 5 is nothing but sixth element, isn't it? A of 5 in the sense sixth element in the array. So we have created the array only for 5 elements and we are trying to access the sixth element. So this is array index out of bounds exception. So here there are two errors in my program. But first, which type of exception will occur over here, in the sense this particular thing. Okay, first this statement gets executed, then this statement, but before assigning the value, it will try to evaluate this value. After evaluation only it will try to initialize, isn't it? So when it tries to evaluate this value, it found that the dividend over here, the divisor over here is 0. So it is arithmetic type of exception. So immediately arithmetic type of exception object will be created and thrown out of the class. Before it tries the initialization concept, the object will be created and thrown out of the block. So which catch block is responsible for handling this exception? Arithmetic exception or array index out of bounds exception? Arithmetic exception, because it occurred first and arithmetic exception object is created and thrown out of the block. So the respective catch block, arithmetic exception catch block, will be evaluated. So it will show this message, arithmetic exception occurs. It shows this customized message, because here we are not printing the object, here we are printing the customized message. So we will get this customized message along with the rest of the code message. So when it is executing, I mean when the catch block, when this particular catch block is handling the exception, the other catch blocks will keep quiet. They are not going to do anything in our program execution. They will simply keep quiet, because only arithmetic exception has occurred. So the responsibility of handling that arithmetic exception type is the first catch block. So it will handle that one and remaining will keep quiet. Okay. So same thing, if you generate the array index out of bounds exception, then what will happen? The first will remain quiet. I mean the arithmetic exception will remain quiet. The second exception, that is array index out of bounds exception, will handle the array index out of bound exception object. Then The catch block, I mean exception catch block with exception class will also keep mum. I mean it will not do anything, and you will get rest of the code as well. Okay, then uh, yes, if try block contains two exceptions, but at a time only one exception occurs and its corresponding try block corresponding catch block is invoked. This also we discussed. Okay, so I will show you once again, don't you bother about it. I will show you once again all these things. uh, yes, this null, this 1 2 3 4, all the things I will explain in one shot. Okay, then we will go for Java's nested try block. So 1 2 3 4 to explain. So let me just open my edit plus. So this is my edit plus. So over here inside the try block, what I am doing, the first operation, yes, here let me just declare the array equals to new int of 5. So this is my array with 5 elements. So then what I am doing, a of 5 I am saying. So I'm trying to access the sixth element from the array, that is array index out of bounds exception. Okay, yeah, here it is. So then in order to handle this, okay, how many types of exceptions may arise over here? uh, First thing, array index, no, not array index, arithmetic exception. AE. Then what we are doing, for all we are printing the customized messages. We are not doing any, we're not printing the objects, we are printing the customized messages now. System.out.println of. So here what we need to print, arithmetic exception occurred. Okay, arithmetic exception occurred. So this is customized message. So then the second type of exception, catch of arithmetic, no, array index out of bound, array index out of bounds exception, AIBE, array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so then here see here, when you are writing this thing in edit plus, we have an added we have an advantage over here. So if you do any mistake in this class name, so immediately what will happen, it will go in black color. Okay, if it is a predefined class in Java, if it is a predefined class, immediately what should happen, it should turn red. Then only we have to confirm that the class name is correct. Okay, no, then system dot out dot println of, this is array index out of bounds exception occurred. Okay, so then lastly the parent class, exception class exception, divide by 0. No, here you put any other exception. If any other type of exception is occurring, then parent class exception, you write down parent class exception. So first one is arithmetic exception, second one is array index out of bounds exception, and the last one is the parent class exception, that is exception class exception. This is the super class, isn't it? This is the super class for all the classes. Exception class is the super class for all unchecked and checked exceptions. So in this hierarchy, so in my program what is happening, first what type of exception is occurring, the arithmetic exception, because it performs, I mean the control performs division operation first before assigning the value. Okay, here there is a possibility of two exceptions. One is arithmetic and another one is array index out of bounds exception. But first what exception will occur, arithmetic exception will occur. So control immediately creates the object for arithmetic exception and throws out of this block. Okay, and who will catch that object, the suitable catch block. a catch block with arithmetic exception class will handle that exception. Okay, and remaining catch blocks will be skipped. Okay, just see this one. When I save and when I compile, is here there is something. Yes, once again I'm trying to redefine, so that is not correct. Here already we defined the array type, so a of 5 is equals to, like this we have to, yes it is correct. Then run it. As you can see, what type of exception occurred in my program? Arithmetic exception. So I'm getting arithmetic exception occurred message, customized message, then along with rest of the code message. So 2 I'm getting. So then in order to make my program so that it will give the array index out of bounds exception, what should I have to do? Yes, this operation you perform a valid operation over here. Instead of making the value infinite, you make a proper value over here. So now what will happen? This will give 50, a valid value. Okay, no arithmetic exception now. Then that 50, the program tries to initialize to a of 5, which is not defined. It isn't it? It is beyond the index boundary of your array. We have defined the index boundary of the array up to a of 4 only. The maximum size is 5, so that means the index values 0 to 4, a of 4 only. But we are trying to initialize that value to a of 5. So what type of mistake it is? It is an exception of type array index out of bounds exception. So that message I should get for this error. Okay, for this error, that message I should get. So Java's compilation, it is successful because it is not a compile time mistake. Then run. As you can see, what error we got? Array index out of bounds exception occurred. That error message we got. And in both the cases, I'm getting the rest of the code executed. Okay, rest of the code is executing. So this is the second type of error. Let us assume I'm not generating both the exceptions. So then what will happen? None of the catch block gets executed because no exception is arising. Okay, neither the arithmetic exception nor the array index out of bounds exception is occurring in my program code, in my try block where I'm doing the exceptions. Okay, so then what will happen? None of the catch blocks will be executed and I will get simply a last message, that is rest of the codes message. Okay, you can see rest of the code. Okay, so let us assume I'm neither generating array index out of bounds exception nor generating arithmetic exception. I'm trying to generate another type of exception in my program, that is null pointer exception. How to generate null pointer exception? I'm taking a string and I'm trying to initialize this to null. Okay, then I'm trying to print the length of that string. Okay, system dot out dot println of str dot length of. So now what type of mistake it is, what type of exception it is? I'm trying to find out the length of an null pointer. Okay, length of a null pointer. So doing so is an error. When my string is not pointing to anywhere, I'm trying to calculate the length of that string, so it is a null pointer exception. So do we have written any specific catch block to that type of exception? No, we have not. We have written only for arithmetic exception. We have written another one for array index out of bounds exception. But we have the generalized exception, that is a parent class exception category. Okay, parent class exception. We have a generalized catch block, parent class exception. So in this case, what will happen? Neither arithmetic exception nor array index out of bounds exception, but exception class exception will be is going to handle this null pointer exception. Because if you see the hierarchy, your exception class exception is capable of handling all the types of exceptions, and your null pointer exception is one such type. Here you can see the null pointer exception where we have, here we have the null pointer exception, and it is a subclass to the exception class exception. Okay, exception class exception. So your exception class exception is capable of handling the null pointer exception. So now here, as null pointer exception is generating, who will handle that one? Parent class exception will handle that one. And we will get this rest of the code. This message, this customized message, as well as this customized message. Two messages we will get on the output screen. Quickly go and compile the program. Program compilation is successful. And what type of exception is present in my code? By seeing only we can say that null pointer exception is there. So who will handle that null pointer exception? Parent class exception will handle. Okay, parent class exception catch block will handle the exception. Already it is handling and we are getting this message, and we are getting the message rest of the code as well. Hopefully you understood these three things. Okay, when arithmetic exception is there, arithmetic class exception catch block will handle that one. Where array index out of bounds exception is there, array index out of bounds exception catch block will handle that one. If any other type of exception like null pointer exception is present and we have not written the specific catch block to null pointer exception, then the parent class exception class catch block is handling that exception. Hopefully you understood. So quickly we go and see what other things we have to discuss. So nested try block we need to discuss. The multi catch block is over. Then nested try block. The try block within a try block is known as the nested try block. Okay, if you put one try block into another try block, we call it as a nested try block. So for this, I mean, why we have to go for nested try blocks? Because only one try block is doing our job, isn't it? The outer try block, it is doing our job. Then why there is a need to go another nested try block? In the sense, here we are discussing one simple situation where there is a requirement of nested try block. So sometimes a situation may arise where a part of a block may cause one error and the entire block itself may cause another error. In such cases, exception handler have to be nested. So suppose if you want to handle more number of exceptions, because if one exception is occurring, immediately what is happening? The control is leaving the try block. The control is thrown out of the try block, and it is not going for any other exception type. So if you want to handle more number of exceptions within the try block, you think that there is a possibility of occurrence of more number of exceptions within the try block, and if you want to handle multiple exceptions, not a single one, rather multiple exceptions within the try block, then we have to go for nested try blocks. Because if you put multiple exceptions within one single try block, in that multiple exceptions, when the first exception is occurring, immediately the control is thrown out of the block. There is no possibility, or there is the control will not touch, the control will not execute the other exception statements. Okay, the other suspicious statements, what I mean to say, it is simply thrown out of the try block. So if you want to touch the other suspicious statements as well, then we have to go for nested try block. Okay, I will show you how we can achieve that one with the help of example. Here you can see, let us say all these statements, statement 1, statement 2, and inside the nested try block also we have statement 1, statement 2. All these statements, they are generating the exception. So let us say if this outer block statements, they're not generating any, but the inner block statements, they are generating exceptions. So in that case, even after executing the inner block statements, there is a scope of executing the statements in outer try block also. So but when we do this practically, you will understand. Over here you can see the yes, inside this outer try block, what I am doing, I am performing the arithmetic exception. Okay, I am performing the arithmetic exception, and I am performing the array index out of bound exception also. Two types of exceptions I am performing. Then yes, we will do it so that you will understand. Okay, yes, come to here. Yes, here how many exceptions we have? 1, 2, 3 exceptions, but at any time only one exception is occurring, isn't it? and remaining all they are simply skipped. So what I will do is I will try to generate all types of exceptions and I will show you how to get all those exceptions executed. So first I will take a try block, catch block respective to that one. Okay, so here you can see this as the outer try block and the respective catch block. Inside the outer try block, what I will do, I will put the arithmetic exception. I'm putting the arithmetic exception. So what I have to do, arithmetic exception, when I am keeping, just remove all other types, put only arithmetic. Okay, arithmetic here, arithmetic in the sense, yeah, that int data. Okay, int data is equals to 100 divided by 0. So this is arithmetic exception. So it will be handled by this here you print only the object so that you will understand. No customized message now. Print the object itself. Print the object, that is AE, arithmetic exception. Then object itself will have the description. So no need to go for customized one. But just that is also an option. So I have shown that one also to you. So then go for the next one, that is array index out of bounds exception. The second type of exception is array index out of bounds exception. So that also I have to create and I have to handle. So the second one is from here, array index out of bounds exception, in the sense this particular thing. Here when you try to access the fifth element, here you put sixth element. Okay, fifth in the sense sixth element, then you will get the what we call array index out of bounds exception, this one. So to handle array index out of bounds exception, this arithmetic exception catch block not required. Yeah, the array index out of bounds exception catch block will handle that one. And here also just print the object, no need of the customized message, just print the object here also, that is AIBE, array index out of bounds exception. Then yes, inside the outer try block, how many exceptions are occurring? First arithmetic exception is occurring, that will be handled by this catch block. Then array index out of bounds exception is occurring, that will be handled by this catch block. Then I'm trying to generate one more exception in the outer catch block, that is the null pointer exception. Null pointer exception I'm generating inside the outer catch block. Sorry, outer try block. This thing is not required. Only declare a string with null initialization and try to find out the length of that string. So this is null pointer exception. So for that, what we have to do, we have to take the help of the parent class catch block. Okay, parent class catch block will handle the null pointer exception, and then we have the rest of the code. So in general, if you don't take nested try blocks, then what will happen? Only one exception will arise and that will be handled by the suitable catch block. But if you take the nested try blocks, then what will happen? First arithmetic exception, then it will be handled. Then array index out of bounds exception, then it will also be handled. Then the null pointer exception, and then it will also be handled. 3 exceptions we are generating, and all 3 exceptions we are handling with care. Okay, so here all the messages I should supposed to get on the output screen. Just compile it. As you can see, there are no mistakes. So directly go and run this one. As you can see, we are getting all. First, here the arithmetic exception, divide by 0, it is occurring. Object will be created and thrown. Who is handling? The first catch block is handling. It is printing the message, as you can see here. Java.lang.arithmetic exception class is handling that exception and it is giving the message divide by 0. Then the second nested try block, that is array index out of bounds exception. Sixth location, index value 5 we are trying to access. It is an exception. What type of exception? Array index out of bounds exception. So who is handling? Java.lang.array index out of bounds exception class is handling that exception and it is giving the error message. We are trying to access the index value 5, which is beyond the boundaries. Okay, beyond out of boundaries of the index out of bounds exception. Okay, then lastly the string class object here, instead of giving this, you put the object. Already I told you to put the object. So here also I will put only E, the exception. Okay, just go compile once again, done it, and then run it. We're not giving the customized messages. See, when you are generating inside the outer try block after the nested try catch blocks, when you are generating the null pointer exception, okay, what is happening? The outer catch block is handling that exception. The parent class, except the exception class, is handling that null pointer exception. If you want to make this exception class specific, then you have to make it as null pointer exception over here. Okay, that also possible. As you can see, in both the cases, the message as it is you are getting, and then the rest of the code is also getting executed. Hopefully you understood. Even when your program is generating more number of exceptions, you are handling all those exceptions with proper care. Hopefully you understood this concept. Okay, then we will move to the next concept, that is the finally block. Okay, finally block, Java's finally block is a block that is used to execute important code such as closing connections, closing streams, etc. Already I told you, already I gave the explanation where we had the brief discussion on the 5 keywords. Finally block, why we use? To put the important code irrespective to the exception. Whether exception is occurring or whether exception is not occurring, irrespective to the exception occurrence, if you want to execute some piece of information, some code, that code you have to put inside the finally block. Finally block is something which will not care about the exception. Whether exception has occurred, not occurred, it will not care. It will not look for that. Okay, and it will execute whatever it is having beyond the exception occurrence. Okay, so what type of code, generally what type of code we have to put inside the finally block, in the sense like closing the connections, because connections we are opening in order to interact with the database, and if the exception occurs and if you don't close that connection will remain open forever, isn't it? So there is a need to close the connection in a proper way with a proper code. So that code, irrespective to the occurrence of the exception, you have to execute. So that is the reason why closing connection code we put inside the finally block. Same thing in case of streams. Streams are nothing but they are helpful in interacting with the files. If you are reading some content from the file, or if you are writing some content to the file, we depend on these streams. Streams are nothing but the flow of data. It is also something like a connection only. But normal connections, they are used to communicate with the database, but whereas these streams, they are used to communicate with files. Okay, so files also, in order to interact, we are opening the file first. But when you are opening the file and exception occurs, and if you forgot to close that file, then what will happen? That file will remain open forever, and any misleading thing may happen to that file. So any corruption may happen to that file. So in order to avoid such a thing, such a corruption, such a misleading thing, what we have to do? We must have to close the file stream in a proper way. So that stream closing statements, where we write, in the sense we write inside the finally block only. Okay. So the second point, if you read, first point already I have explained. The second point, if you read, Java's finally block is always executed whether exception is handled or not, irrespective to the exception. Whether you have handled the exception, whether you have not handled the exception, it will not look for that. Irrespective to the exception, it will always gets executed. Okay, Java's finally block, and where we have to write this finally block, in the sense we have to write after the try block only. If you are writing only the try block, write the finally block after the try block. If you are writing try catch block, write the finally block after the catch block. Okay, we will see examples. There you will understand the importance of this finally block. Okay, why to use finally block? Finally block in Java can be used to put cleanup code. Cleanup code, in the sense, already I told you, to do the garbage collection, or to do the connection closing, or to do the stream closing, we use these finally block. Finally block in Java can be used to put cleanup code such as closing a file, closing a connection, etc. So the best examples are closing a file, closing a connection only. That's why whenever I'm explaining, I'm taking the help of those two examples. And here also in my PPTs, if you see, I have taken that example only. Okay. So remember this one. Whenever we talk about this finally block, you have to use these two wording. Okay, closing a file, that is nothing but closing a stream, and closing a database, that is nothing but closing a connection. So these two things you have to use. Yeah, this is the simple example where we use this finally block and how it will get executed. Uh, yes, in my program, what I have done, I'm not generating any exception. First, I will show you by generating the exception, and then I will show you by not generating the exception, and I will show you how this finally block gets executed in both the cases. Okay, so there is one example. Uh, yeah, here what we have done, we are generating the exception, but we are not handling that exception because we have given the catch block with a different set of exception class. Okay, different exception class. So that's the reason. This also we need to discuss. Okay, this also I will show you, but in either case, whether the exception occurred and handled, whether the exception is occurred and not handled, in either case my finally block will be executed. Okay, so yes, first we will discuss this thing with the help of examples, then we will come and we discuss the uh, other points. Okay, so in this one, what I have to do, simply remove this entire thing because I don't want any nested stuff now. Remove this. First simple thing, I'm generating arithmetic exception. Okay, so int data is equals to, so see, always why I'm taking the same examples. Okay, from the first point onwards to this point, I'm taking the same examples. Whenever I want to generate arithmetic exception, I'm taking a variable data and I'm performing some division operation where I'm taking the divisor as 0 so that the value reaches infinity. Why I'm doing like this, in the sense so that the concepts will stick into your mind, because if I use different examples, there is a possibility that the concept will not reach you properly. Okay, so that the discussion will become easy. That's the reason why I'm taking the same examples again and again. Let me just check the time. Okay, still we have a lot of time. So int data, then what I am doing, some 100 divided by 0. So what type of exception I am generating? Arithmetic exception. So here, handle it. How to handle it? Arithmetic exception AE. Okay, and print it AE. Then take block finally block, and inside this, sorry, finally block, put the message system.out.println of finally block excuse me, is always executed. Finally block is always executed. Simple message I am printing inside the finally block. Okay, finally block will be executed always. Okay, then rest of the code. So now what is happening in my program? Basically, I'm generating an arithmetic exception and I'm handling that arithmetic exception using the proper catch block, and then I'm keeping some message inside the finally block. So to show you, even when the exception is handled properly, the finally block gets executed. So just save the program. Okay, tools, compilation is successfully. Then run the program to check the output. See here, what type of exception is occurring? Arithmetic exception is occurring. Java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. It is giving the message because we are printing the object now, not the customized message, but we are printing the object. So we are getting the message description. Then we are getting the message from finally block. Finally block is executed. Okay, then rest of the code. Okay, then rest of the code is executing. So what does it mean? If your exception is handled properly, then also the finally block gets executed. Suppose if exception is not occurring at all. Here what is happening? Exception is not occurring. So catch block will not be executed. Exception handler will not be considered. There is no exception because. But in this case also your finally block will be considered and executed. Check this one. First case what we discussed, exception occurred and handled. Second case, exception is not occurring at all, so no need to handle. But in that case also your finally block gets executed. See here, run. Yes, your finally block is always executed and rest of the code is also. Okay, the third scenario is exception is occurring but not handling. So what we have to do here, you give some different specific exceptions. So here I am giving null pointer exception. So that is NEP. The type of exception which is occurring inside the try block is arithmetic exception, but I have given the handler for null pointer exception. Okay, NPE, null pointer exception. So in this case also your finally block will get executed. Exception occurred but not handled. We have seen three different cases so far. First case, exception occurred and handled. Okay. Second case, exception not occurred. So there is no handler. Okay, no need of handler, but finally block executed. And the third case, exception is occurred but not handled properly. Not handled. So in this case also your finally block gets executed. Just see here. You will get the message. Who will handle, exception occurred but not handled properly. See here, finally block always executed, but you're not seeing the rest of the code. Why you're not seeing rest of the code? Because from here, okay, from try block, the arithmetic exception object will be created here, isn't it? Arithmetic exception object, because arithmetic exception is occurring, so arithmetic exception object will be created and thrown out of this block. So the catch block tries to catch it. The immediate catch block tries to catch it but fails. Why? Because it is not guarded with proper exception class. Here we are saying null pointer exception. Is the try block generating null pointer exception? No, it is generating arithmetic exception. So this try block fails to catch it. This catch block fails to catch it. So immediately what will happen? Who will catch? Do we have any other catch blocks? Do we have any other exception handlers over here? No. Then who will catch? Your Java's default exception handler will catch that one. So the control will jump from here to there. The control will jump from here to there. But before jumping, okay, before jumping the control from here to there, what it will do is it will execute the finally block. Before going to the default exception handler, it will execute the finally block. It will execute the finally block. So we are getting the message on the output screen. As you can see here, finally block is always executed. So what it is doing, before jumping to the default exception handler, it is executing the finally block. So we are getting this message on the output screen. Then what it is doing, it is going to the default exception handler. Then the control is moving to the default exception handler. So when the control is moving towards the default exception handler, it will not come back to your application. Remember this one. It will not come back to your application. So before going to the default exception handler, it is executing finally block and it is shifting. So once it is shifted, it will never come back. So that's the reason this message we are not seeing on the output screen. Rest of the code you're not seeing on the output screen. See. Yes, exception in thread main, this java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. From where we are getting this one? We are getting from the exception handler. Default exception handler we are getting this message. Because the default exception handler is handling my exception, rest of the code is not executing from my program. Hopefully you understood. But In all the cases, we observed one common point, that is finally block is executing irrespective to the exception, whether exception has occurred, not occurred, handled, not handled, whatever has done to the exception. Okay, whatever has done to the exception, but finally block is always executing. Remember this one. Okay, even when the exception has occurred and not handled properly, even when your exception is handled by the Java's default exception handler, in that case also your finally block is executing. But remember this one, you cannot use the finally block alone. You must have to put this finally block after the try block only. Okay, so this is about the finally block, the most important thing. All the scenarios we discussed. So here the same rules we are discussing. For each try block there can be 0 or more catch blocks, but only one finally block. You cannot put more number of finally blocks. You have to put only one finally block, and whatever code you want to put inside the finally block, put in that one finally block only. Don't go for a second finally block. Okay, it is not allowed basically. And one more note, the finally block will not be executed if program exits either by calling the system.exit or by causing a fatal error that causes the process to abort. Yes, if you are using okay, some people what they will do means in order to stop the I mean abnormal execution of your program, they will put this system.exit uh, conditions in the program. So function calls or the method calls in their program. So if such a method call is observed within the program, and even if you have the finally block after the try block, your control will not come back, because executing the exit method, it means that your program that your control is leaving the program. So once the program leaves without touching the finally block, it will not come back. So in this particular scenario, your finally block will not be executed if you are calling the system.exit method. And other fatal errors, in the sense, if during the program execution, if something goes wrong, like error conditions, if your virtual memory collapse, if your virtual machine collapse, memory out of bound exception, that type of fatal errors, if they are occurring, uh, this finally block will not be executed. Okay, remember this one. Then the Java's throw keyword, and we discussed about this throw keyword, that throw keyword is used to throw the exceptions explicitly in the sense by the user, or we can say manually. Okay, manually, explicitly in the sense by the user or manually. So this throw keyword, why we are using to throw the exceptions manually. So where we need this type of things, I mean where exactly we need throwing the exceptions manually, in the sense when we are testing the code. So in order to test your code, whether it is defending a particular type of exception or not, so what we do, we throw the exception manually. Instead of generating that situation by writing the code, we throw the exception manually, so as to check whether your program is safeguarded with that particular exception type or not. So throw keyword, basically it is helpful in testing process. So we can throw either checked or unchecked exceptions in Java by throw keyword. Both checked as well as unchecked exceptions we can throw from the program. Okay. The throw keyword is mainly used to throw custom exceptions. We will see custom exceptions later. Yes. Not only the testing process, but also because generating a particular type of exception, if it is predefined, to some extent it is very easy. But if you are writing an exception by your own and generating that situation in your programming, may be somewhat difficult. So in such scenarios also, we will make use of the throw keyword to throw that type of custom exceptions. Okay, about these custom exceptions we will discuss very soon, hopefully in this session only. Okay, so the syntax for Java's throw keyword is simply you have to use the throw keyword and followed by the exception. What type of exception you want to throw, that exception you have to. Okay, so example also I have shown over here, throw followed by the IO exception. So sorry, device error. So some input output exception we are throwing from the program, and that exception how we can throw means simply use the new keyword and that class constructor. Okay, by passing an argument, you can call that constructor, and that constructor will generate the object, and that object will be thrown out of the block. Okay, so here this IO exception, what it is a class. It is a class name. IO exception is a class name, and when you use this parenthesis after the class name, this indicates the constructor. This indicates the constructor call, and when you are calling the constructor, here this must be like this. String double quotations we are opening, but we are not closing. We have to close. Okay. Sorry device error is the string that we are passing to this IO exception constructor. So what this IO exception constructor will do in the sense, constructor call will do in the sense, whenever we are calling a constructor, we are generating an object, we are creating an object. So here basically an object of IO exception. So if you name it, we can call it as IOE. IO exception object will be created and thrown out of the block. Whatever block this statement you are executing, from that block this object will be thrown. It is manually throwing, isn't it? The situation we are not generating, whether the device, device error we are saying, whether the device is connected and that device is having seriously communication error, we don't know. But we have generated the exception manually and we have thrown it out of the block. Okay, so this particular thing you have to note. Okay, throw keyword example we are about to discuss. So we have created the validate method that takes integer value as a parameter. If the age is less than 18, we are throwing the arithmetic exception. Otherwise, print a message, welcome to vote. So basically in this program, we are checking the voter's age. If the age of the voter is below 18 years, we are throwing the arithmetic exception to indicate that the voter is not eligible for voting. And if the voter's age is above 18 years, we are welcoming him by giving a message that welcome to vote. Okay, so simply we need to discuss this one. See here inside my program, what I am doing, I am checking the age, whether the age is less than 18 years. If the age is less than 18 years, I am throwing an arithmetic exception by a message not eligible for voting or not valid. Then what I'm doing, else in else case, I'm welcoming the person with some proper customized message, welcome to vote. And inside the main method, what I'm doing, I'm calling that validate with 13. Okay, so here you can see that arithmetic exception class is generating the error message. So when we write this program and when we execute, you will understand. So here what we have to do, yes, you write the validate function first. Okay, static, because we are calling this function directly inside the main method, so we have to make this function as static void validate of int age, isn't it? Int age. Okay, then inside it check the age. If at all age is lesser than 18 years, then what we need to do, create the object using throw keyword. Throw new arithmetic exception. Here give some message like not eligible for voting, whatever you give. Okay, not eligible for voting. Okay, then in the else what we have to do, simply print a legitimate message, system.out.println of welcome to vote. That's it. Then inside your main, just no need of these things. What we have done, we are calling that one, then rest of the code we are keeping. Call that validate method, validate of, pass the age like 13 years first, simply to check what output you will get. Okay, then passing the age as 13 means we are generating the error now. Okay, and that error will be thrown. And who will handle that error? Your java.exception handler will handle that exception, your default exception handler, because you are not giving any catch block, any try block here. So who will handle the default exception handler will handle this exception. Whenever there is no try catch, your default exception handler will handle this exception. So then simply to check system.out.println of rest of the code, simply to check whether, okay, then go compile. Okay, what it is saying, there is something gone wrong. Yes, we forgot to close this validate method, right? Here only we need to close this validate method. Okay, hopefully now it is correct. Yes, then you run and check the output. See here, very important program this is in my consideration. See here, we are wantedly generating the error validate of 13. When you pass the age as 13, then this validate method will be invoked and your age value will become 13. So if age 13 is less than 18, condition is true, isn't it? If age is less than 13, we are throwing this exception. So this exception will be thrown. Throw new arithmetic exception of not eligible for voting. Okay. So this object, arithmetic exception class object, will be created with this description. Okay. If you are performing divide by 0, then that method will be, that object will be thrown with the divide by 0 message. But here, as it is a customized message, isn't it? We are not performing any division operation, so we are giving a customized message, not eligible for voting. So this message will be kept inside that object and that object will be thrown out of this block. So when it is thrown out of this block, simply it means there is no exception handler over here and we are not even monitoring that exception. So what will happen? It will thrown out of the entire program. Okay, and where it will go? It will directly go to the default exception handler. And that default exception handler is printing this message. Okay, not eligible for voting. And from where we got this message? From the arithmetic exception class object we got. That's the reason we are getting arithmetic exception class name over here. And as you can see, rest of the code it is not executing anywhere. Okay, the reason for not getting this rest of the code message on the output screen, because your default exception handler is handling the exception now. So if your default exception handler is handling the exception, it will not return the control back to your program. That's the problem. That's the reason we are not getting the error message. Hopefully you understood. So now make the age, some valid age, some 29. So no exception, right? No exception. So then you will get welcome to vote as well as rest of the code will also be executed. See here, I'm compiling the program and then I'm running the program as well. So welcome to vote and rest of the code is also executing. Hopefully you understood. So in this way we can create our own exceptions as well as we can throw the exceptions manually as well. Throw keyword is used to throw the exceptions manually. Okay. So the next thing, exception propagation. Okay. Exception propagation, it is an important concept. See here, propagation is nothing but rethrowing. Okay, rethrowing. So first some exception, okay, some block is throwing the exception and some block is trying to handle that exception, and if you feel that that is not the right place to handle the exception, what you can do, you can further throw that exception. So here you can read this one. An exception is first thrown from the top of the stack, and if it is not caught, it drops down the call stack to the previous method. So it will keep on check for the handler from where you are throwing it. It will keep on check for the handler in on the stack, because when you are calling more than one method, all these methods will be stored in an hierarchy from top to bottom. All these messages will be stored on the stack. So at the top of the stack, if you didn't find the handler, then the control, what it will do, it will go down. It will go down and check for the handler in the remaining methods as well. It will go down and it will check for the handler in the remaining methods as well. And if we didn't find any handler inside the complete stack, if it didn't find any handler, then what it will do, it will throw that same exception. It will give that same exception to the default exception handler. Okay, if not caught there, the exception again drops down to the previous method. So simply it will keep on checks for all the methods. First it will check the top method. If it is not handled, then the down method. If it is not handled there, it will go to the down, and so on until they are caught or until they reach the very bottom of the stack. This is called the exception propagation. By default, unchecked exceptions are forwarded in calling chain propagated. So here you can see, yes, Yes, how many methods this is a normal class in that we have three methods. Okay, so and inside the P method we are handling where exactly the method is where exactly the exception is occurring. Inside M method the exception is occurring. Okay, inside M method the arithmetic exception is occurring. Then from where we are calling the M method, from the N we are calling the M method, and from where we are calling the N method, from the P we are calling the N method. And inside P class, when you are inside the P method, when you are calling the N method, you are keeping that method call inside the try block and you are handling that over there. Hopefully you understood. So what will happen over here when you are calling the P class? Okay, when you are calling the P class, what will happen? This will propagate. Okay, P class, inside P class N class is invoked. Inside P method N method will be invoked. Inside N method M method will be invoked, and inside M method uh, inside N method you have the exception. So that exception, as it is not handled over there, the control will not jump from here to the what we call the default exception handler. Because it is called, this M method is called from another method, the control will be thrown out of this block. The control will be thrown out of this block. So if it is going out of this block, means it is coming over here. It is coming over here. You have to understand this. It is coming over here. And here also there is no handler, isn't it? As you can see, here also there is no handler. So it will be thrown out of this block as well. Here it is thrown. So here it came. And here also no handler. So it will be thrown out of this block as well. So if it is thrown out of this block, where it will come? Does it reaches the default exception handler? No. Because this M, which is also called in from P. So it will come over here. But when it comes to here, when exception object, when it comes to here, it finds that it is having the handler over here. It is having the handler. So exception handled, this message you will get. Exception handled, this message you will get, and then normal flow. And let us assume if here also, inside the P method also, if you are not handling it, then what will happen? This will go to the default exception handler. Okay, this will go to the default exception handler, and there at the default exception handler, the exception will be handled, but you will not get this normal flow or rest of the code message, normal flow message. Why means? Because the exception was handled by the default exception handler. So this thing we will understand. Exception propagation we will understand with the help of a program here. Simply remove all these things. I need only PSVM, public static void main. So let us take the important simple method void M. So from M, what I am doing, I am generating the exception over here. Int data is equals to 50 divided by 2. Sorry, 0. This is arithmetic exception we are generating. Okay, then I am writing void N. And from this, what we have to do, just call the M method. I am calling the M method. Okay, then write another method, that is void P. And inside this P, what we are doing, we are calling, but from the try block we are calling. What method we are calling? N method we are calling. Okay, so here how to handle this one? What exception? Parent class we are taking. Exception E. Okay, or you can even put arithmetic exception over here, because we are sure that arithmetic exception will occur. So here you print a message that exception handled, catch block. So here system dot out dot println of exception handled. Okay, close this one. So then once the exception is handled, yes, you can close this P method here. Okay, then inside this, create the object for this test demo class, because we need to call this P method, which is a part of your test demo. So inside main method, what to do? Create the test demo td equals to new, call the constructor of test demo off. So now td dot, what we have to put? Call the P method, and here you put some rest of the code message. System dot out dot println of rest of the code. Hopefully you understood. So now first what will happen, we are creating the program execution will start from this point. TD object we are creating, td.p we are calling, p method we are calling. So the control will jump from here to p method. So inside p, n we are calling. Yes, it will come over here. Inside n, m we are calling. It will come over here. Then inside m, the exception is generated. Object will be created, arithmetic exception object will be created and thrown, but out of this block it will be thrown, and out of this block when it is throwing, but out of this it is inner to n method, isn't it? So when it is throwing from here, it will come over here. Again it will check for handler over here inside n method. It is not there, so it will be thrown out of n block as well. So when it is throwing, I mean when the object is thrown out of this n block, it will come here, isn't it? It will come here, and already it is in try block. So if it is in try block, it will look for catch block, suitable catch block. Suitable catch block is here with parent class. So you will get this message. You will get this message on the output screen. And as the exception is handled properly, the control will not be shifted to the exception default exception handler. So after this td.p, you will get this message as well on the output screen. Rest of the code, this message also on the output screen. So just go and check. Program execution, compilation is successful. Now you can see exception handled and rest of the code. Both messages we are getting. Okay, exception handled and rest of the code. Both messages we are getting. Let us assume if I don't put this one, if I don't put the try catch, then what will happen? Okay, then what will happen? The exception is thrown from m, reaches n, no exception handler, so thrown from n, reaches p, no exception handler, so thrown from p in the sense where it will reach. If it is thrown from p, it will go to the default exception handler. Okay, it will go to the default exception handler, or thrown from p in the sense it will come to here, main. And here in main also we don't have any exception handler, so it will be thrown out of the main as well. So if it is thrown out of the main, it will reaches the default exception handler, and in that default exception handler you will get the error message that divide by 0, but the problem over here is you will not get this message. Rest of the code you will not get. Okay, that is the problem. Okay, that's the reason we need to provide the exception handler always. So this is exception propagation, how the object is propagated from m to n, n to p, p to main, and even in main we don't have the handler, so it reaches the what we call default exception handler. Okay, so once it is reaching the default exception handler, problem started. See here, divide by 0, error message we are getting, proper error message we are getting, but the what we call rest of the code we are not seeing. See here, you can see how the exception was propagated. From inside m it got exception, from m to n it is propagated, n to p it is propagated, p to main it is propagated. Okay, and in main also we don't have the exception handler, so we got the exception from we got the exception handled by the default exception handler, that is arithmetic exception. So we are getting this divide by 0 message. It is the standard message from the arithmetic exception class. Okay, hopefully you understood this one. So then go to the next part. So here all the method calls will be stored like this. First main, from main we are calling p, from p we are calling n, from n we are calling m. Inside m exception has occurred. So when exception occurred, it will be thrown out of m. So it will reach n. No exception handler. It will reach p. Here we handled, isn't it? Here we handled. So we are printing the message, and we are also getting rest of the code also. Rest of the code will also be executed. But if there is no handler, let us suppose if there is no handler inside p, then it will reach m. And as inside m also no handler, then it will go to the default. Okay. In this case, it will go to the default. So if default is handling, you will get the stack trace method and stack trace description, and that rest of the code will not be executed. Hopefully you understood. So yes, here one more program is there to indicate that checked exceptions are not propagated. So if you are throwing an exception manually, that is, if you are throwing the checked exception, that type of exceptions, yes, they will not be propagated. So you will get the compile time error. So here it is very simple. Previously we have created the unchecked exception, so we got the proper output. But here using the throw keyword, we are throwing the input output exception. It is a kind of error, isn't it? Error class, IO class exception. So as it is unchecked exception, so sorry, as it is a checked exception, it will not be handled, and you will get the compile time error. It will not be propagated. That means it will not come from M to N and N to P. It will not come like that. So you will get compile time error. Remember this one. Checked exceptions are not propagated, and you can write this simple example for that one. Okay, then throws keyword. So throws keyword is something, it is used to declare the exceptions. Okay, the Java throws keyword is used to declare an exception. It gives an information to the programmer that there may occur an exception, so it is better for the programmer to provide the exception handling code so that normal flow can be maintained. So always it is used to help the programmer. Okay, when you are writing the method, at that method only we will write what kind of exceptions you are thinking to put inside that program code or inside that method code. So exception handling is mainly used to handle the checked exception. If there occurs any unchecked exception such as null pointer exception, it is programmer's fault that he is not performing checkup before the code being used. Okay, so see here how we put the throws, how we guard our method against the exceptions in the sense using the throws class. So here throws class, exception class name. So whatever exceptions against which you want to guard your method, you can put over here exception class name here. So here method name, a return type, method name, then throws keyword, throws keyword we have to use, then all the classes, whatever exceptions you think that you want to generate from this method, all those exceptions you can put over here. Okay, so which exception should be declared as uh, using the throws keyword, in the sense only the checked exceptions, because unchecked exceptions are under your control. So correct your code directly. We can go and we can correct. If arithmetic exception is occurring, we can directly go and we can correct the code. And if null pointer exception is occurring, we can go and we can correct that error, isn't it? But whereas checked exceptions, input output error, that we can't correct. Or there is another error, like we have different sets of errors, checked exceptions, those are not in our control. So if such types of exceptions are occurring inside your code, then it's better to guard, it's better to safeguard against those errors instead of correcting them. Okay, error beyond your control. Example, you are able to do anything if they occur. Virtual machine error, if you are not able, okay, if you are unable to do anything if they occurs, virtual machine error or stack overflow occur. Okay, because these two things we cannot I mean, if unchecked exceptions are occurring, we can't do anything, because unchecked exceptions are occurring, we can do anything because they are in our control. And errors, they are beyond our control, we can't imagine that we can control. But checked exceptions are something that we need to do a specific task, we need to handle, okay, with proper code. That kind of exceptions only we used to declare. Okay, advantage of Java's throw keyword. Now checked exceptions can be propagated, because in previous example we discussed that checked exceptions are not propagated, okay, from method to method. But now with the help of this throws keyword, if you safeguard your method with throws keyword, yeah, it is capable of throwing the checked exceptions as well. It provides information to the caller of the method about the exception. A particular method, if it is throwing a kind of exception, then the caller must know what type of exception it is throwing before it calls. So if it is knowing in advance, it is capable of handling that. If it is capable of receiving that error, okay, it is capable of receiving that error. So we will do some examples so that you will understand. The example of Java throws class, which describes that checked exceptions can be propagated by throws keyword. In our previous example, we have seen that a checked exception like input output exception, a device error, that is a checked exception, so it can't be propagated from M to N to P. But now we safeguard our method so that when it is throwing the checked exception, our um what we call our caller of the method must know in advance, and so that it can handle that exception. Okay, so we will do step by step. First I will show you the compile time error without safeguarding our method. Then I will safeguard my method and show you how it can be how the compiler error is removed and how it can be handled. Okay, so go to the edit plus. So here same thing. Yeah, instead of normal arithmetic exception is an unchecked exception, but now I am throwing a checked exception, that is throw new input output exception of what message? Device error. Device error. Okay, it is an checked exception. So if you do so, yes, inside P provide the provide the try catch, and inside try put this one, and over here what type of exception? IO exception, right? IOE, and here you print system dot out dot println of IOE. Object we are printing IOE, like this. Save this. Okay, yes. Now if I call my P method, inside that we are calling N method, inside N we are calling M method, inside M we are generating the checked exception. So checked exceptions we must have to safeguard. We must have to tell the caller that the method will what we call the method will generate this type of exception, as we are not saying anything over here, as the caller is unknown about the M method exception, as they are checked exceptions. As this M method is generating checked exception and it must be checked over here, it has not done. Okay, it has not done, so the compile time error you will get. We will go and we will see what it is giving. See here, throw IO exception. So as it is throwing IO exception, as it is an checked exception, we are getting error. So if you safeguard your method, so how we can tell? Here you put IO exception, that's it. Throws, not throw, throws IO exception. So in this way, this throws keyword is helpful in order to safeguard our method, so that the caller will know. Now N will know that M is throwing a checked exception. So from M a checked exception object will come out. Okay, now N will come to know, but P does it know that N is also throwing? Because when M is throwing that object will come over here. Now N, what it will do, as it is not having the handler, N will also throw that, isn't it? N will also throw that. So N, when it is throwing, the caller of N is P. So the caller of P, it is completely unknown that N is also having N is also throwing a checked exception. So must safeguard N also, throws IO exception. So now P will come to know that N is also throwing a checked exception. So when you call N from P and N is if N throws checked exception, no problem at all, because it is already safeguarded over here. So this checked exception will be handled properly. Here also it is coming, and at P, inside P, it is properly handled. So no need to mention the no need to put the throws class over here, and no need to put the IO exception over here, because P itself handling, and P's caller is main, isn't it? Who is calling P? P's caller is main. As P is not throwing, P is handling that one. As P is not throwing any exception, no need to guard and no need to tell the main that P is throwing a type of exception. Hopefully you understood this one. So this is how we using throws keyword we are going to propagate the checked exceptions. So always whenever a method is throwing the checked exception, what it is saying, throws IO exception. Why this is giving this error? Acha, I need to include that, I guess, because it is a checked exception. I need to import that package. That's the reason it is giving import java.io exception. ठीक है, चलो save it now. Now you check. Yes, successfully compiled. But first let's just remove this once again. Now save it. Now you check it. Yes, as you can see, throw new IO exception device error must be caught or declared to be thrown, because it is an checked exception. It must be declared to be thrown. Okay, it must be declared to be thrown. So declaring in the sense, using throws keyword, we have to tell the caller that the method will throw checked exception. That checked exception is device error. Okay, sorry, that IO error, IO exception. So now now P is aware that N will throw a checked exception. Now N is also aware that M will throw a checked exception. But M main method, it is completely unknown that P will throw unchecked exception. Is that so? P is not throwing any exception. P is handling that exception because P is handling try catch. So P is handling that exception. So no need to make main aware that P will throw an unchecked exception. P is not throwing any unchecked exception. So simply save it, compile it, and run it. You can see Java's IO exception, device error, and rest of the code. Now your checked exceptions can also be propagated from M to N and N to P and P to not P to main, because P only handling that one. So what happens? What happens if P will not handle? That also we will see. What happens if P will not handle? Then you will get error. You just see. Again compile time error, because who is calling P? Main is calling P. And P is throwing what type of exception? P is throwing checked exception, because IO exception is a checked exception. If P is throwing checked exception, main must know in advance that P will throw a checked exception. And we are not making main aware in advance. So what will happen? Compile time issue. We will see. Again, compiler will show an error that we must declare. See here. Must be caught or declared to be thrown. Okay. N. Okay. N is throwing to P and P received, and P is also throwing to main. Okay. Sorry. I closed my edit plus. Okay. This is. So what we have to do here, you simply put throws IO exception. Now everybody knows. Okay, now everyone knows. But when you are calling P, main is also aware that P will throw the checked exception. But what will happen? Does main is handling that one? Main is also not handling. So what will happen? Your default Java's exception handler will handle that one, and you will not get this rest of the code message. Just see this one. Compile. Okay, already we made P also throws IO exception. Yes, we made P also throws. Achha, so if main is throwing, default exception handler is handling, isn't it? Main is throwing, default exception handler is catching, but default exception handler is unknown that main will throw IO exception. So we have to make main also IO exception. Okay, we have to make the default exception handler aware that main will throw the IO exception. So that we do now. Throws IO exception. Okay, now you save it. So now even the default exception handler knows that the main will throw that exception, checked exception. Save it, compile. Yes, as you can see, now everybody knows in the propagation process, everybody knows that they are throwing. So here you can see device error you are getting, that from the object you are getting this message, and from n to n, n to p, p to main, main to default exception handler, the object is being propagated. And here n is aware that m will throw IO exception, p is aware that n will throw IO exception, that is checked exception, and main is aware that p will throw IO exception, checked exception, and default exception handler is also aware that main will throw a checked exception, that is IO exception. So because default exception handler is handling our exception, this rest of the code you are not seeing on the output screen. Hopefully you understood. Okay, this is very important program in my consideration. Okay. uh, yes, in case of checked exceptions, two things. If you are handling the exception, I mean, if you're being a method, if you're handling the exception, no need to declare the exception. Simply handle it. If you're not handling and throwing, then declare it. So that declaring, I mean, declaring how we are doing using the throws class we are doing. Using the throws class, we are declaring the method. The advantage of declaring the method, the caller will come to know that a particular method will throw an checked exception. Hopefully you understood. Okay. Yes, here we are handling the exception. See here, uh, inside the main we are handling the exception, and here we are not handling the exception. So must and should we need to declare inside. Yes, so two programs already we discussed. When it is when if exception does not occur, if exception occurs. Okay, we discussed these things. Okay, can we rethrow an exception? Yes, by throwing the same exception in catch block we can rethrow. Difference between throw and throws. Okay, there are many differences between throw and throws keyword. A list of differences between throw and throws are given below. So Java's throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. Explicitly throwing in the sense manually throwing. Okay, throws keyword is used to declare an exception. Yes, already I told you, if it is if a particular method is throwing, or if a particular method is throwing a checked exception, the method must declare that checked exception using the throws class. Okay, and another difference, checked exceptions can't be propagated using the throw only. Yes, we know this one. In order to propagate the checked exceptions, we must have to use the throws as well. Okay, we must have to use the throws as well, because when you declare the checked exception using the throws class, then only your method is then only your method can propagate the checked exception. Otherwise you will get compile time error. Okay, throw is followed by an instance. Always whenever you are using this throw keyword, after the throw keyword we must have to create the object, and that object, so that the object will be thrown out of the block. But whereas the throws keyword, as it is only declaring, it is not creating the object or not throwing the object, it is just declaring or making the caller aware that the calling function will throw some type of error. So here throws class must be followed by the class. Okay, throw is used within the method, and throws is used in the method signature when you are writing the method name. After method name parameters, then after the parameters we will write this throws keyword and followed by the exception classes. Okay, you cannot throw multiple exceptions. More than one exceptions we can't throw, but multiple what we call um, exception classes can be declared using the throws keyword. So these are 5 differences between throw and throws keywords. Okay, here they have given some more elaboration how the throw keyword can be used and how the throws keyword can be used and how both throws and throw can be used together. Okay, then the difference between final, finally and finalize, this is an important question here. See, the final keyword, why we use this final keyword? To apply the restrictions. Okay, to apply the restrictions in the sense, generally whenever we are creating a class, whenever we are creating a method, a variable, others will try to access that one, isn't it? Others will try to access and others will try to modify the contents of these classes, methods and variables. So if you make final, if you use the final keyword when you are creating a class or when you are creating a method or when you are creating a variable, their content will become final. That means others can access but can't modify, can't change, we mean to say. Okay, can't modify or can't change. If it is a class, it can't be inherited, because inheritance only, through inheritance only a class content can be modified. Then if it is a method, it can't be overridden, because through overriding only a method's content will be modified. And if it is a variable, it can't be changed. Remember this one. Okay, final is a keyword, it is also it is a normal keyword. Okay, finally is used to place important code. Okay, finally is used to place important code. It will be executed whether exception is handled or not. Already we discussed finally about finally keyword, finally block just before we discussed. Okay, finally it is a block where we are keeping the code, important code, because that code we want to execute irrespective to the occurrence of the exception or irrespective to the handling of the exception. Okay, then finalize, it is also a block. Okay, it is also a block and it is used to perform the cleanup processing just before object is destroyed. Oh yes, whatever code you put or whatever statements you put inside the finally block, just before the object gets destroyed, this block will be executed. Okay, finalize is a method, remember this one. Okay, how about the final example? Final, we are creating a normal variable final with at 100 as value, and in the next statement when you try to change the value, you will get the compile time error. Over here you can understand this very clearly. We have created a final variable, final int x equals to 100, and if you try to change the value of this final variable, what will happen? You will get a compile time error. Okay, the next one, finally is a block. So here an exception has occurred, finally block is executed always. Okay, exception has occurred and it is handled, but even though your finally block is executed and you are getting the message on the output screen. Then finalize example, see here, I have written the finalize method. Okay, and I have created two objects, f1 object, f2 object, by initializing to some value. And when you are making those two objects as null, or when the control is coming out of this block, what will happen? These two objects will get destroyed, isn't it? As these two objects gets destroyed, first object will, let us assume first object is getting destroyed first, because this thing will happen randomly. Which object will be selected for destruction first, we don't know. We are assuming that f1 will be selected first for destruction. So if f1 will be selected, then a finalize method related to f1 will be called. Okay, finalize called, you will get that output. Again, after f1, f2 will be selected for destruction. So again, one more time you will get that message, finalize called. So every time whenever an object gets destroyed, the finalize method will be invoked. Okay, the last concept in this exception handling, that is the concept of custom exceptions. Okay, custom exceptions are nothing but creating our own exceptions. Okay, creating our own exceptions. If you feel that whatever exceptions they have provided, I mean the developers have provided, they are not sufficient to fulfill your project requirement or to fulfill your application requirement, then as a user, as a programmer, you can write your own exception classes as well. Okay, these exception classes, we call them as the custom exception classes or user defined exception classes. Okay, user defined means as a programmer, as a user, we are going to write that code. Java's custom exceptions are used to customize the exceptions according to the user needs. Just now I have explained. If you feel The predefined ones are not complete, predefined ones are not sufficient, then you can go for your own exceptions. By the help of custom exceptions, you can create your own exceptions and your own messages. What message the custom exception should give in description, that also you can create by your own. Okay. So here one simple way in this, what we are doing is, yes, whenever you are creating a custom exception, you must have to extend the properties of the parent class, that is exception class. Even though you are creating your own exception, but you in that case also you have to extend the custom, you have to extend the existing exception class. So then only your user defined class will become the exception class. Okay. uh, so here I just want to create a custom exception to check the person's age. Okay, to check the person's age, whether he is legally allowed to vote or not. So in India, the legal age before a person can vote is 18 years. So if the person's age is 18 years, he can go for voting. And if his age is not 18 years, below 18 years, he's not allowed to vote. Okay. So with that simple logic, I will write one program, a complete program on that one. Go to the, okay. So as we are writing our user defined what we call uh, exception, so for that we have to give a class name. Here we have invalid age exception, so that only I will give invalid age exception. This is my user defined class. Okay, and it should extends the exception class. It should extends the exception class. So now inside it, what I will do, I will put one simple constructor for this invalid age exception of string s. So whatever it is receiving, it will print. It has to print, or it has to send that same thing to super class. Super keyword, right? Super is a keyword. So super class constructor it is calling. Super of s. Super class in the sense the exception class. So this description, whatever message we will pass from that, it will send it to the super class, that is exception class. So this is this particular code I am keeping inside my class. So now what I have to do, invalid age exception is a class name. So save this program with this same name. Control C, save. It will ask that name. So Control V dot Java. Hit enter. The program got saved. Okay, the program got saved. This program you can only compile, you cannot run, because there is no main method. We need only the class file of this one, isn't it? We don't need the we don't want this particular program to be executed. We need only the class file, so that we can use that class file into our actual program. Okay, so what we have to do, just go to tools and compile. See here. Okay, so expected semicolon at the end, some error it is giving. Achha, over here we forgot to put this one actually. Okay, like this, save it. Now go to tools, compile. Yes, so when you have executed this successfully, sorry, see here, this is my what we call this is my folder. Okay, where I have all my files. So here you can see invalid age exception program is there, and invalid age exception class is there, dot class. So this dot class, using this dot class file only, I am going to create I'm going to create my own exceptions. Okay, my own exceptions in programs. So I will write one simple program now where I will generate that invalid age exception. Invalid age exception class exception. Okay. So again, I'm writing one simple class over here, class test demo. So inside it, what should we do? Yes, create the and moreover it will become an checked exception. So we must have to safeguard before calling that function. We must have to safeguard the function signature with a proper checked exception class using the throws keyword. So that I am doing now. So inside it, I'm going to validate. I'm going to write one validate method. So in this validate method, I am generating or I am raising the invalid age exception. Okay. So here int age I will read. So I must safeguard my function call, I mean method call with invalid age exception. Okay, throws invalid age exception. So like this. Hopefully it is correct. Yes. So here in this, if at all age is less than 18 years, then the exception must be thrown. Throw throw what type of exception? That invalid age exception. So throw new of invalid age exception of uh, not eligible for voting. Okay, not eligible for voting. Else welcome for voting. Else system dot out dot println of welcome to voting. Okay, very simple messages we have given. So this method, this validate method is responsible for generating the exception, and as it is checked exception because it is not nowhere it is defined in the hierarchy. So by default all user defined exceptions are checked exceptions. So you must safeguard your method call because it is generating. Whoever is going to call this validate method, they must know that this method validate method will invoke or will generate this invalid age exception. So now my main method public static void main. Inside main I will handle that one. Okay, inside main I will handle that one. So string, no need to safeguard main method now. If you're not handling the inside main also, if you're not handling, then you must safeguard the main also. Okay, you must tell the main caller also that main will throw this invalid age exception, but now I'm handling here. So try. So inside it call that validate of 13 years. So invalid age this is. So how I must handle that invalid age exception IAE. Okay, so here system dot out dot println of IAE, that only you print. Okay, okay. Then you put rest of the code also. Okay, because we will as we are handling over here, after execution, after showing the output of this program, I will try to remove this handler. I will try to remove this try catch, and we will send this exception to the Java's default exception handler. We will see how the program will give the response. Out dot println of rest of the code. Rest of the code. Okay, close this one. Save it. Now yeah, I know the class is going a bit lengthy because the concepts are like that. I cannot stop the concept in between. So now compile. Okay, validate. Okay, it is in static context, right? So you must make this validate as static void. Okay, because it is not dependent on object. See, directly we are calling validate, so it is not dependent on object means we need to make it static. Okay, so program got compiled successfully, and if you see the output, yes, not eligible for voting because the age is 13 years. We are getting not eligible for voting, and who is giving this message? This catch block inside main is giving that message. And as main method is handling that checked exception of user defined exception class, yeah, we are getting rest of the code also on the output screen. Okay, we are getting rest of the code also on the output screen. But if, what if your if your main method is also not handled, once again, one more time I will show you the output. See here, compile, successfully compiled, and execute. We are getting both the messages. Okay, from the handler, from the catch block, we are getting not eligible for voting, and as main is handling the exception, the rest of the code is also getting executed. Rest of the code also getting executed. But what if your main will not handle that exception? Okay, what if main will not handle? That means no try, no catch inside the main. Then what will happen? Then what will happen with the program? Okay, is my rest of the code gets executed? Do I have to do anything else? Yes, I need to tell the Java's default compiler, sorry, Java's default exception handler that my main method is throwing a checked exception. My main method is throwing a checked exception. So quickly go and compile. See here, need to safeguard. Need to safeguard. That is must be caught or declared to the declared to be thrown. So validate. Okay, validate is throwing a checked exception. Because of that, we are getting this type of error. So what I have to do here, simply you put the throws class and put that, what is that exception class name? Invalid age exception. Invalid age exception. So now your default exception handler will come to know, because he's the caller for main method, so he will come to know that the main method is throwing a checked exception. So it is its responsibility, the default exception handler's responsibility to handle it. So it will handle it, but it will not return back the control to the program. Just see that one. Compile, successfully compiled, then run it, and you will not get rest of the code. See here, from validate to main, the control is being transferred from main to the default exception handler. So main is aware that validate is going to throw invalid age exception, and default exception handler is also aware that main will throw invalid age exception. But when it comes to the rest of the code, because the default exception handler is printing this message, not eligible for voting, and but when it comes to rest of the code, as default exception handler is handling the exception, it will give error. I mean, it will not return the control back to the main or back to the program. So that's the reason we are not getting the message rest of the code on the output screen. Hopefully you understood this one. See, this exception handling concept, I mean, yesterday's session and today's session, I have completed almost all the twisted questions. If you prepare to this concept the way how I dictated step by step, if you prepare all these concepts, you can easily get whatever weightage you have for this exception handling. Definitely you will get one LAQ from this one. Hopefully you understood the importance of this exception handling. That's the reason I paid more time, and that's the reason. And after this we will discuss the multi-threading concept. That concept will also take 2 sessions. Okay, and so that we can get into the collections framework. Collections framework, I'm not going to spend much time. That hardly 2 classes for the entire unit, collection frameworks. Okay, so that we can quickly, because I want to start that GUI programming. Okay, GUI programming, and then the JDBC concepts. So with that we conclude our entire syllabus. Okay, thank you very much, students.